hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you haven't seen the previous videos, click the links down below and subscribe right over there. And yeah, bye!
Hi guys, it's Aiden. Welcome back to my channel, or if this happens to be the first video you're seeing of me, what's up? I am so excited for this video because I am introducing a brand new series onto my channel called Soft Spoken Sessions. I actually just came up for the title of the series like 5 minutes before filming, so I haven't entirely decided how I feel about it, but I think it's a good representation of my goal with making this new series. Also, first of all, how do we feel about the new background? I think it's so cute. My whole YouTube channel, my main goal with everything that I do is I really just want to create a safe space on the internet for people, and I try to do that with every video that I post, regardless of what the video is, even if it's literally just me sitting down and ranking a Taylor Swift album, or if it's a little more of a serious video where I talk about mental health, or even my Teen Talk series where I answer your guys' TMI teenager questions. Everything that I do, I just try to create a really safe space on the internet, and with this series in particular, it's absolutely no exception, and I really want to go even further with that. I'm really excited for this series. I created this whole new background because if you've watched any of my videos before, you would see that I only really film during the day, mainly just because that's when the lighting is the best, but I often find myself wanting to film videos late at night, and I just have so many things that I want to say, and then I feel like I can't because it's already late at night and the lighting's not going to be good. So I wanted to create a series and a space on my personal YouTube channel where I can talk about these personal things, but I can do it whenever I want. Right now it is literally currently 9 p.m. and today I'm going to be talking about what going through school was like for me, having no friends. It's a topic that I've kind of touched on in a couple of videos, but I really wanted to just sit and talk with you guys and really just kind of explain what I went through. And I also have gotten comments and responses of people going through similar things, or they're actively in school and don't have any friends. And so I wanted to be a source of comfort for you. And weirdly, I think a lot of what people find comfort in is just hearing similar experiences that they're going through and hearing that they're not alone in that. So if I can provide comfort for anybody, then that'll mean the world to me. But also, if you haven't been through something like this and you're just interested to hear my perspective, then I appreciate you being here. I'm very excited for the series because I have so many things that I want to talk about. I've just been through a lot, and I'm a very sensitive and soft person, but I'm also a very empathetic person, and I truly do think everything I've been through has made me stronger. And I also, this is gonna probably sound weird to some people, but I honestly feel like I went through all of the things that I did so that I could do this and sit here and talk with you guys about it. So that's what this is. Yeah, I mean, I'm so excited for this series. Give this video a thumbs up if you're excited. Please subscribe to my channel because I have so many other topics for this series, and I also just post videos like literally all the time, so it would mean the world to me if you would subscribe to my channel. Also follow me on Instagram because I think that'd be nice too. And with that being said, let's unpack some of my trauma. So when it comes to me not having friends in school, I do want to just preface by saying it was mainly high school that I didn't have any friends. I did have friends in middle school and in elementary school, even though my relationships to a lot of my friends was very rocky, and most of them actually just didn't last. But it's mainly high school where I just had nobody, and it was really difficult to go through. So I do want to kind of give some backstory as to how I ended up with no friends. So like I said, I had friends in elementary and middle school for the most part, but even the friendships that I did have, they all felt so weird. It felt like nobody actually, except for like one or two people, it really didn't feel like anybody wanted to be my friend. It kind of just felt like I was there. So then people had to be my friend, which obviously doesn't make you feel good. And even despite being like 12, 13 years old, I was able to pick up on that pretty early on. So I had friends in elementary and middle school, and then the reason for me not having many friends going into high school was simply just because the like two core friends that I had in middle school ended up going to a different high school than I was. So when it came to me starting my freshman year, and I also just want to say, just for context, I started my freshman year in the beginning of, or end of 2019, so like fall of 2019, which I'm only saying because it does play a big role into it, which we'll talk about in a second. But because the literal two friends that I had were going to a different high school than me, when it came to me starting my freshman year, I had nobody. Obviously, I had people that I knew of because I had gone to middle school with them previously. Because also in my area where I was going to school, there was the middle school that we all went to, and then there were kind of like 2 or 3 adjacent high schools that everybody kind of went to, and everybody split off and went to, and you kind of just went to whichever one was closer to your house. So when it came to me starting high school, I didn't really have anybody. I had people I was like acquaintances with, but no one I would ever hang out with outside of school. And it kind of was just those types of relationships that I knew if it came down to like a group project, no, they weren't gonna pick me. I just remember being terrified to start high school because I knew I wasn't gonna have anybody, and that was true. But lucky for me, I did have this one girl that I wasn't friends with towards the end of middle school, even though we were best friends in 7th grade. We just fought so much in our friendship, not relationship. We fought so much in our friendship that by the time we graduated middle school, we were not friends anymore, and we honestly just didn't have a good relationship. But starting high school, she was one of the few girls that I thought that I could be friends with, because, you know, we had been friends before, so I figured maybe we could be friends again. We didn't have any classes together, but I figured, you know, we could at least hang out during lunch, and maybe lunchtime could be the one part of my day that I am not completely alone. That was a friendship that I rekindled, and I'm very thankful for that friendship, but it didn't last very long for a couple of reasons. This girl that I was friends with was essentially friends with this big giant group of people, and I was fortunate enough, and you know, they were kind enough to all of them kind of accept me and embrace me, but it just wasn't the type of people that I personally wanted to be associating with, which is very interesting because I feel like in some ways people might just say like, well, you should be thankful that you had them, like you shouldn't be picky about the people you're friends with, which no, I was gonna try to justify that, but I just think if you don't want to be around people, and if it's not the type of people, like, it's not that they were bad people, I didn't want to associate with them, and a lot of them I didn't like the way that they were living their lives, and it just kind of made me uncomfortable, so it just wasn't good for me. Yes, I did technically have a crowd of people I could be hanging out with. It never felt like an actual friendship, or none of the people in that group actually knew who I was as a person, and I would say I also didn't really know them all that much, so that's kind of how it was for me in the start of my freshman year. But as I said, I started my freshman year in the end of 2019, which meant that I would have finished my freshman year in the summer of 2020. We don't need to get too much into it. We all know what happened in 2020, but it honestly was very crucial for my journey, because when the pandemic started in March of 2020, it wasn't that big of a deal to me because I didn't really have friends necessarily. Again, I had this group that I kind of was hanging out with at lunch at school, but aside from that, like I never would text them, I never would message them, we would never hang out. So when the pandemic started and we were all stripped of human connections anymore, it wasn't that big of a deal to me because I didn't really have people that I felt like I was having strong connections with anyway. So in that regard, it wasn't that effective to me. And it's also very interesting because I distinctly remember during the pandemic feeling like I had this upper hand because it seemed like everybody else was struggling with not being able to see their friends, where I didn't really have friends or people that I really wanted to hang out with anyway. So it wasn't really a struggle to me, which I guess in some way, like, that's true, and I guess I am kind of glad that I wasn't going through that, but again, like, I didn't have any friends, so it's not really a win there, you know what I mean? But fast forward through the pandemic, I pretty much did my entire sophomore year online. I ended up going back in person for the last, like, month, but that was just my parents forcing me to do that because my mental health was at an all-time low, and they thought that forcing me to do things in person would help my mental health. It didn't, but I understand their mindset, and I don't blame them necessarily. But by the time it was the start of my junior year of high school, which was the first official year being back since the pandemic, I had nobody. Absolutely nobody. It's so interesting because I think I touched on this in a recent video. One of the hardest parts about me not having friends in school was simply just the fact that I felt like everybody was looking at me like a loser. Obviously, not having friends was really difficult and very isolating and depressing and all of the things, but it's very interesting because I remember distinctly when I was in my junior year and my senior year when I didn't have any friends. I remember distinctly thinking this would be so much easier if I could just go to school invisible. If nobody knew that I didn't have any friends, I felt like I wouldn't have cared so much, but because I care so much, especially then, about what other people thought of me, and I've always cared about other people's perceptions of me, I felt like everybody was looking at me and pointing fingers at me and being like, ha ha ha, that's the kid with no friends. And that was what drove me the most crazy. It wasn't the fact that I was actually alone, it was the fact that I knew people were looking at me and being like, oh, that's the kid with no friends. And I don't know why, but that was like the biggest struggle for me. And I remember that feeling distinctly, especially leading up to me starting my junior year, because one of the things that I was most afraid of was just what was I gonna do during lunch. I didn't have friends to go to. I didn't even have acquaintances at this point because all of the people that I was friend adjacent with in my freshman year, we hadn't talked in 2 years since the pandemic started, because when the pandemic did start, I didn't feel any interest in keeping those friendships and keeping that relationship. Small as it was, I didn't feel the need to keep those relationships because it didn't mean that much to me. me, and I didn't feel like it was giving me anything. And I also, like I said, I didn't really want to hang out with those people. So starting my junior year, I was terrified. It's also funny because I vlogged to this day. There's literally a vlog on my YouTube channel. If you go back to like some of my beginning videos, I literally did a first day of school, my junior year vlog, and you can see me like, you can see me really panicked, and there's even like a shot of me at the end of the video where I'm just sitting alone at lunch. I'm like sitting behind this brick wall, which ended up becoming a very constant thing for me. I mean, I didn't have anybody. I remember for the first couple months of my junior year, I would always sit behind this brick wall, which was kind of by the entrance of like the math hallway, but it was just the place that I ended up picking to sit because I literally didn't have anywhere else to sit. I also just remember feeling so embarrassed because I was a junior. So many of the other most of, if not actually all of the other juniors had cars and they were driving, and so when it came to lunch, they were able to use their like lunch pass and sit in their car or drive somewhere to eat and bring their friends with them. And I just remember feeling so embarrassed, but also just so jealous and envious of the fact that there were people that were so close to me that were able to go through their lunch and have fun with it. I just remember feeling like, this is so crazy. I'm supposed to be looking forward to my 45-minute lunch, but it's actually the one thing that's causing me stress all day, because obviously I don't like sitting through my classes. I always hated school. It was never for me. At least in my classroom, like I wasn't, yeah, again, I was alone in class and it caused me anxiety, but at least I could preoccupy myself with focusing on the lessons or doing my work or trying to get my homework done or whatever it was. When it came to me being at lunch, I couldn't hide from anything. Like I just had to sit there by myself. Like you know what I mean? Like there was nothing for me to do, and it was really embarrassing to me. It got to the point where I was so embarrassed that I tried to do everything I could to hide during my lunch period. So sometimes I would eat in the bathroom, but then most of the time the bathrooms were like really crazy and occupied and there was too much going on and it stressed me out. So I didn't really like eating in the bathroom. Other times I would literally hide behind the like school dumpster and sit there. Again, it's so crazy because the entire time this is all happening, I was vlogging just because that was like one of the only things that got me through school and also just my life, because I didn't have any friends, I didn't have a life, so I would always be filming and making videos. So you can actually go watch and see me always sitting alone. But yeah, sometimes I would literally sit behind a dumpster, sometimes I'd sit in a classroom, sometimes I'd sit behind this brick wall, sometimes there was this other brick wall I would sit behind. I just tried to hide myself because I was so embarrassed of the fact that I was sitting alone. And it was also embarrassing because there was nobody else doing the same. Nobody else was sitting alone. I traced that school, I walked every inch of that school, and not that I was necessarily looking for other people who were sitting alone, but I never saw anybody else sitting alone. And it made me feel so bad about myself because I just couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Why did nobody want to be my friend? Why did nobody even care to talk to me? And obviously, you know, I could have done stuff, and I objectively, I should have been putting myself out there and trying my best to do that, but I also was just going through so much mentally, and I had too much going on in my life that I couldn't, that was never on the table for me. Like it was not possible for me to do that. But I just took it so personally, and I think a lot of the time for people who don't have friends, especially in school, it's really hard to not take it personally because you really start to think there has to be something wrong with me. And to anybody out there who doesn't have any friends in school or is sitting alone at lunch or whatever it might be, it doesn't have anything to do with you. For me, the reason it happened was because I never gave myself the opportunity to showcase my personality to other people. And I think that was my biggest mistake. Not that I beat myself up about it, because again, I was going through so much. I was in therapy like 4 days a week. I was on so many medications. I was really going through it. So I don't want to knock myself or beat myself up over it because I was going through it enough. I don't need to beat myself up even more. That kid did not need any more beating up. But it was really difficult. Again, it's like I felt like something was wrong with me. Nobody wanted to be my friend. Nobody wanted to talk to me. And it reflected even in my classrooms. Nobody ever wanted to talk to me. When it came to having to do group projects, I was always the kid that was the last one to get picked because nobody wanted to talk to me. And even when people were forced to talk to me, it was like the least interesting, like, and it happened with multiple people. It's like these people could not have cared less about me. And that was so hard for me because I felt like I've always had a compassionate personality. I've always been super empathetic. I think that I'm a very interesting person. And I'm not saying that to be like everybody needs to be my friend, but I always knew I had so much to offer. I've always been a kind person. And I knew as a friend, I was a very good person to have as a friend. And I still feel that way to this day. But then it's like, I felt like I was never given the opportunity to showcase that to anybody. And the times that I was given the opportunity, it's like nobody cared, could not care less. And obviously it's like, you know, it's high schoolers. Most of them just mope around or just are so not interested in literally anything in life. But it was it was heartbreaking. Like, I just remember sitting alone every single day, and all I would do is think, what is wrong with you? And it breaks my heart because nothing was wrong with me at all. There was nothing wrong with me. And I'm so glad that I've had the healing journey that I have this year, because I'm able to look back at everything that I went through, and I'm able to confidently say I would have been friends with me during that time. And that means everything to me, because I just wanted a friend so bad. And I think for a while I tried to convince myself that I didn't. I tried to convince, we talked about this a little bit earlier, it's like I tried to convince myself that I was so much stronger being alone. And there is something to be said about being alone and how strong that makes you. I mean, throughout all of this, it has truly made me really strong to this day, because I am so independent. And that's something I love about myself. I love how independent I am. I love how I'm able to be comfortable alone with myself, because I had so much time alone with myself. Now that I'm an adult and I'm older and I've, whatever, I am able to sit alone with myself, and I do love myself. And I don't think that would have happened had I not had all of that time. But that's also not to say that it wasn't one of the most painful, gut-wrenching, degrading experiences that I've ever gone through. On top of that, though, it did start getting to the point where people were in fact making fun of me, and in turn bullying me because I didn't have any friends, which, as I discussed early on, that was always my biggest fear. Towards the end of my junior year, I started sitting every single day during my lunch. I would start sitting in a hallway, and I would sit in the hallway that was right outside my math classroom, because my math class was my last class of the day. I would have lunch and then go to my math class, and then that was my day was over. So I started sitting outside my math classroom just so I could go straight to my classroom after lunch was over. And I started to get so harassed when I was sitting alone. There was always this group of guys, I still to this day, I don't even know if they were in the same grade as me. They might have been they might have been sophomores or freshmen, or they might have been seniors, I don't know. There was this group of guys that would walk through this hallway every single day, and at first, they saw me, they kind of just passed by, and then it got to the point where they started to consistently see me alone. And obviously, as the typical person does when they see somebody sitting alone, obviously the first thing we do is make fun of them. Obviously, clearly, because that's totally the first thing I do when I see people. I'm kidding and being sarcastic for anybody who can't tell. So yeah, I started getting bullied and made fun of for the fact that I was sitting alone and that I was alone every day. They loved to throw food at me. Don't know why, specifically carrots. They loved throwing the cafeteria bag of carrots at me. I don't know what that's about, but it was really hard. Like, I don't know what it was about just having other people see me be alone, but that was so terrifying to me. And then to have this group of guys that would walk by and throw food at me was so... Well, one, I just will never understand that. I can't fathom seeing some kid who's so hurt. Clearly, I visibly clearly was hurting. I can't imagine seeing a kid who's hurt and sad and alone, and your first thought being, I'm going to throw food at him and I'm gonna make fun of him because that's what he deserves. He's clearly sitting alone because he's a loser and sucks and he's just a horrible person. So I'm gonna further make him feel horrible and I'm gonna throw food at him. I don't understand that. It just was horrible. I'm so grateful that that's over, because I can't describe the feeling of being alone and then being made fun of for being alone. I could cry, but I don't think I will. I'm gonna try to hold it together, but I really could cry because, oh God, I don't know. I think I'm getting emotional because obviously that was like a horrible thing to go through, and it sucked so bad, but it just makes it's breaking my heart because I know that that's still happening every single day, and I know that there are kids literally to this day who have to hide themselves in the bathroom because they're this exact type thing, and worse. I mean, not to take away from my own experience, but I know there's so many worse things that are happening and that could have happened to me. Not saying that I deserve that or that it should have happened to begin with, but I know there's crazier and more horrible things that are happening, and that's, I think, what's breaking my heart. This is why I feel so passionately, and I feel like I say it in every freaking YouTube video I do, but all I want to do with my platform is promote love and empathy and compassion. I feel like every video I'm like, I'm so compassionate and empathetic towards people, but it's because I am, because I've been through it, and I I think the world will always benefit from being empathetic and compassionate, and I don't think that that's ever something that we don't need more of. And especially nowadays, I mean, it's so hard. I feel like everything is so angry and everybody's so angry all the time, and I understand why. I mean, the world is rough, and we're kind of getting off topic here, but I don't know, I'm kind of losing my train of thought. It was really hard. I could cry about it. I got through it, and I'm so proud of myself that I did, because it was one of the biggest things that shaped my personality. I don't know, I feel like it was more like it shaped my soul. It was horrible, don't get me wrong, but I feel like the hardest things that we go through are the things that shape us into the people that we are. I have to look at the situation for what it was, and I have empathy for myself, and I feel bad for myself, but I also know that it has made me a lot stronger of a person, and for that I'm thankful. I'm not thankful that I went through it, because it was horrible, and I would wish literally anybody to go through that, but it did make me into who I am, and I love who I am now, so for that I'm thankful. So fast forward a little bit, that was my junior year, continued until literally the last day of school, was always made fun of, was always everything. And for anybody who might be thinking, why don't you move out of that hallway, why don't you start sitting somewhere else where these guys wouldn't walk by, I'm just gonna be honest, I really just felt defeated. And it didn't, I was gonna say it didn't affect me, I mean, clearly it absolutely it affected me, obviously that's a given, but I just felt like when I was actually going through that actively, I didn't have the energy to even try to fight back. Not that I ever would fight back, but in the sense of fighting back as in like just moving or trying to find a new spot, I just didn't care. I also was so depressed, and I hate to say this, but I really was so depressed during that time that I kind of liked that I was being made fun of, because it really fed into this god awful mindset that I'm so glad that I'm out of, but it really fed into this god awful mindset that I deserved every horrible thing that was happening to me. There was this really sinister part of my brain, especially during that time, that felt like I deserved to be going through that, and I think that really toxic part of my brain is really what kept me staying there, because in some really sad way I felt like I deserved it, which is, God, I wish I could give my younger self a hug, because it really breaks my heart that I went through that. And not only that I went through that, but I also felt like I deserved it, because I didn't do anything to deserve that. I don't think anybody does do anything to deserve that, but I didn't do anything. You know, I mind my business. All of those days that I'd be sitting alone at lunch, I'd always just be listening to like Taylor Swift the entire time and just like keeping to myself, or I'd be watching YouTube videos or filming my own videos, or I'd be editing a video. Like I just always would keep to myself. And I will say too, like this is kind of a little bit of a side note, but this is why I feel so passionately about so many of the things that you guys kind of probably know me for being passionate about. Taylor Swift being one of them. I mean, it's like I just appreciate her so much, because she literally was there for me. I was able to play her music when I was going through all this, and it brought me so much comfort, and I will forever be grateful for that. Same with YouTubers. I mean, I've talked about this before, but Alicia Marie and Remy Cruz are some of my favorite YouTubers of all time, and they have been since like 2014 and 2015. But the amount of days that I would just sit and listen to their podcast, Pretty Basic, during those days, it's stuff like that. It's like that's the only thing that got me through it. And that's also why I feel so passionately about doing this, is because the idea that there could be some kid out there who's literally sitting alone at lunch and watching this video and feeling some sort of comfort over the fact that I'm talking about this stuff, and talking about the fact that I also went through that, but I also came out of it, and I feel like a much stronger person. That idea, that's what's gonna make me start crying, because yeah, that would mean everything to me. It really would. Yeah, so anyway, I'm so sorry, I feel like we keep getting off topic over and over, but fast forward, I finished my junior year. I guess I get a little bit of a break over the summer from getting like harassed and bullied and just feeling so depressed over all that stuff. And then when it came for my senior year, I was just as nervous, just as terrified. But I will say, my senior year wasn't as awful for me, because I had taken enough classes throughout my last 3 years of high school. When it came to my senior year, I actually was able to leave school before lunch even started. Or not before lunch started, but like when the bell would ring for lunch to start, that's actually when I would go home, because I also was taking a 0 period in my senior year. So thankfully, my entire senior year, I didn't really sit alone, because I didn't have to be at lunch anyway. I immediately went home, which was awesome. I was very thankful for that. But I will say, my stepsister is the one that would drive me to school every day, because we were in the same grade. And there would be days, because she was my stepsister, we only lived together like half of the week. Half of the week, I would get to go home early, and it was nice, and you know, I wouldn't have to be there during lunch. But the other half of the week, week, I would still have to sit alone. So it wasn't as bad, but I still was sitting alone. Like, I would say half of the school year was still, for the most part, maybe not half of the school year, I'd say maybe like 60% was me going home at lunch, and then 40% was I was still sitting alone, which sucked. Sitting alone at lunch wasn't even just the only part of me having no friends. I mean, going back to the anytime there was a group project, nobody would pick me, literally ever. Anytime there was any sort of social aspect in any of my classes was just awful. Nobody wanted to talk to me, which was really cool. It was also hard for me too, because so many of the kids that I was going to school with were kids that I had literally known since like second grade, and yet nobody wanted to talk to me. And I remember in my senior year, I was doing a little bit better mentally, at least compared to my junior year. I wasn't doing amazing, but I was definitely doing better than my junior year. And so I remember there were a couple of times that I would put myself out there. I was like, what did I not do in my junior year? I didn't put myself out there. I didn't talk to people. So maybe if I start talking to people and start putting myself out there a little bit, then maybe my senior year can become a little more manageable and not as painful as my junior year. And I remember putting myself out there to these kids who, again, I've known since like second grade, and they just did not care. I was like, what the hell is going on? Is everybody just an asshole? Like, I don't understand why nobody wants to talk to me, because nobody did. Maybe I was a loser. I don't know. Probably was, but even then, you don't have the decency to just like talk to me even just for a little bit. Like, I don't know. Anyway, I will say though too, my senior year wasn't all horrible, because I did actually end up making a friend in my senior year. Shout out Carissa. I've talked about her before because she's the infamous like only friend that I had in school. We became friends because we had our film class together. So I'm very thankful for her, because I only saw her for like 40 minutes a day, but at least for like 40 minutes a day I was able to hang out with somebody and talk to somebody, and that honestly was so healing for me. And I don't think that she knows how much it meant to me to finally just have somebody to talk to that was actually interested in talking to me. So Carissa, I don't think you're watching my videos ever, but if you are, I love you and I appreciate you. She helped me so much. Oh my god, I love that girl. But it definitely was still hard, especially like on days in my film class when she would be absent. I was, you know, back to having nobody, and it was weird for me. And I don't know, high school was rough for me. It really was. Nothing about high school was fun for me. Absolutely nothing. There was nothing about it that was fun. I didn't go to football games. I wasn't getting in my first relationships. I wasn't learning to drive. I wasn't getting excited about college. None of that, absolutely none of that was happening for me. So it was really difficult, and I'm so glad that chapter of my life is over, because holy hell was it hard and was it awful. And I just remember every single day I would be praying until not even the end of the school year necessarily, but just me graduating. Like, that's all I wanted. I just wanted to graduate and be done with it and to close this chapter of my life that is so painful, and I got through it. To anybody who might be going through it or might be going through a similar situation or similar experiences, I just want to offer you my comfort and say that you can get through this, and I'm very proud of you for making it this far. And I totally understand, recognize, and validate that it's a very painful experience, especially when you don't have people. I think high school, regardless of, you know, whatever you're going through, it's just hard. You're growing up, you're figuring yourself out, there's all these other people, there's drama, there's everything going on, so much going on in high school. But on top of that, to not have anybody to lean on, it's hard. It sucks. When it came to my graduation, I didn't have anybody, and it was so painful for me the entire year, so much so that I actually didn't attend my graduation. I just didn't feel it was necessary for me, and I didn't want to go to the ceremony and be around all these people who were so mean to me. Not to say that every single person at the school was mean to me, but I just didn't like the environment, and I didn't want to be around these people anymore. Again, that's not to hate on anybody I went to school with, because not everybody was awful to me, but I just made the decision that I wasn't going to go to my graduation. And to this day, even a couple years later, I don't regret it. I didn't need to go to a ceremony to feel accomplished or feel like my 4 years was leading up to that day of the ceremony and everybody celebrating. It's like I just was happy I survived and got through it, because I almost did it. Just being so honest, I literally almost did it. And that was a whole other thing that was really difficult for me. Graduation season was so painful for me because everybody was so emotional, you know, saying bye to their friends and getting excited and having all these parties and having everything, and I didn't have any of that. I just was thankful it was over and that I made it out alive, because like I said, I literally almost did it. But it was really, really painful. And this is also just kind of a side note, but I ended up getting in a relationship like a year later. And this person I was in a relationship was a year younger than me. So while we were in our relationship together, I ended up attending his graduation. And that was also so painful for me. And you might be wondering why, like why that would affect me. It wasn't painful for me in the sense that, like, I was so happy for him and I celebrated him and I was so thankful to be there and be with this person that I was, you know, at the time in love with. I hadn't gone through a graduation before. Like, I had never been to a ceremony or a party or literally anything. So having to go through his ceremony and his party, and his family was so excited. They made the biggest deal out of it, which is, you know, totally fine. Family should do that. But it was literally the most gut-wrenching thing for me because I never had that. And that might sound selfish, and, you know, I understand that, but it was never me being selfish or being malicious about it. It was just painful for me, and I couldn't hide that. I think it was painful because I wanted that. Like, I wish that I would have had friends that I could have celebrated graduating with, and just having somebody to, like, high five after climbing the mountain. Like, I didn't have anybody. This is gonna sound, I hope this doesn't come across wrong. Like, I really was happy for him and I never made him feel bad about it. At least I would hope I never made him feel bad about it. But I was open with him about the fact that it was pretty difficult for me to kind of be going through that. And again, I know people might not understand that and they might say, like, what do you mean you're going through it? Like, it has nothing to do with you. It was just painful because I never had that. And I found myself in a lot of situations, especially when it comes to, like, family things. I find myself being super hurt by the things that I wish that I had. And I hope that doesn't come across as selfish. I just hope that that comes across as I'm just a human being with emotions. I'm a super sensitive person, so maybe that's part of it. Yeah, graduation season really, even a year later after I graduated, it still stung so bad. And so to anybody who also might be going through that, especially right now, oh my god, it's like April, like graduation season is coming. If anybody else is going through anything similar, I just want to say I'm here for you and I totally understand what you're feeling and all of the emotions, and it's a lot and everything. I don't know. I just want to say I'm proud of you for getting through it because I know it's really difficult, especially when you don't have a support system and you don't have people to high five along the way and help each other. It's you know, it's really difficult. But yeah, I think that's a good finale for the video just because I don't know that I have too much more to add. It was just a very painful experience, and like I've said, it really has shaped me into the person that I am today. So I'm thankful for it in that regard, but I also wish that I obviously didn't have to go through that and didn't have to deal with it because it was really painful, and in so many ways I don't know that I could physically come up with words to express how painful it was. And I do think it is also one of those things that unless you've been through literally having no friends in school for years, you won't understand what that feels like. But yeah, that's my journey. That was my experience. I hope this was, I was gonna say entertaining, but I don't know I don't know if entertaining is the word. I hope this was insightful or revealing to some people, or again, just the idea that anybody could be comforted by what I have to say will bring me to tears even thinking about it. So I'm gonna go, but I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, as well as subscribing to my channel. I have so many other topics that I want to talk about when it comes to this series, and hopefully you guys like the format and the new background and the cozy little setup I try to make over here. Follow me on Instagram as well, all the other, you know, influencer, YouTuber things I'm supposed to say. But I love you guys so much. Take care of yourselves. I hope you guys are doing well, and I will catch you guys very soon with another video. Have a good night or day whenever you're watching this.